I just call it how it is. If people are talking to me about their wants and their needs and things like that, I'll ask as many questions as I need to get to the bottom of it. And sometimes I'll just say to them, hell no, you don't want that. You need to look at something like this, because you've just told me while we've been walking around this property how time poor you are, and, how little time you have with the family and things like that. Buying this lifestyle property down Berry is not going to solve your problems.
You're listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers and leaders. We are proud to present Courageous Conversations, a podcast series focusing on the tough decisions people have made to put themselves on a pathway to success. This episode is brought to you by Connect Now, who makes the business of moving easier for both you and your clients. For more information, visit connectnow.com.au. Please welcome your host, Leanne Pilkington.
Hey everyone, Leanne Pilkington here for the latest Courageous Conversation, and I am so excited to welcome my guest, Jacqui Crapp. Hi Jacqui, how are you?
Hi Leanne, how are you going?
Looking forward to this conversation. Now, Jacqui is the principal at Raine Horne Berry and Nowra, and you've been in the real estate industry for about 20 years, is that right?
I have, on and off, yes.
Yes, absolutely, on and off. And 4 kids between the ages of 11 and 25. You're a very busy woman.
I am. Actually, my husband's even busier than me.
Yeah. That's what they say, right? Behind every good woman is an even better man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You were in corporate banking, as I understand it, and you took a massive pay hit, like $90,000 a year, to leave that to come into real estate to be a property manager. What were you thinking? Why did you do that?
I guess coming off the back of a couple of rough years personally, I'd lost both my mum and dad over a 4-year period to cancer. It makes you realise that life is very short. And one of my dad's big things in this world is that you do whatever you do it with passion. Yeah. And if you don't enjoy it, do something else, And whenever I talk to him about, different jobs in the bank that I didn't enjoy, or, I'd take a new role on and go, shit, this is really hard work, Dad. Yeah. He would always say, well, you're only where you are because you haven't moved. If you don't like it, move.
Take some responsibility, young lady.
Absolutely. It was a very tough upbringing. So it was kind of like either make this work or move on. So having sort of probably just had a restock of life and had a bit of a think about where we were personally. And
how do you go about, because that's really what the podcast is all about, right? Taking stock of where you are and working out what you need to do to change where you are and find your new direction. So how did you bring yourself to the realisation that you had to lose all of that money, and how did you come up with real estate as your next step?
Well, I'd kind of been in real estate previously, so I had started my very early career in Harcourts actually as a property manager. Okay. And we had property management and holiday accommodation, so that should have really cured me there, but it didn't. And I'd always had a great passion for it. Personally, I buy investment properties. I love property. My husband's always said to me, instead of, buying shoes like a normal woman, why have you got to buy houses?
See, I just can't understand that. I'm all about the shoes, but anyway.
No houses. I'm actually wearing riding boots today, so I'm not a good you. I'd always had this passion for property, and then I had the opportunity to go into business with some business partners at that time here in Berry. Yeah. And we actually purchased the First National franchise here in town when there was First National here in Berry. Okay. Unfortunately, that partnership didn't go very well for a couple of different reasons.
Can you tell me why?
Sure. Probably my choice of business partners wasn't great. I come from a commercial banking background and have quite a good understanding of business. That was my whole role, was understanding businesses and what makes them tick. My business partners were quite young, and I think we probably lost sight a little bit of what we were trying to achieve with the business. And I think they got a little bit caught up in, when can I get the Range Rover, and, when can we get the nice property?
Real estate agents, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were on 2 different levels. They are lovely people. They were very dear friends when we went into business together. Yeah. And I just think it wasn't a good fit.
That's such an interesting point, because you do think, it's like, oh, I love them. They're such great people. We get on so well. This is going to be great. But going into business is not about being your best friends. It's about having a look, as you say, at that fit, right? And what their goals and understanding of business and all that sort of stuff.
Yep. And I think that's far more crucial. You need to be on the same page for the business and have the same desire and dreams to get that business from where it is today to where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And although, we're not silly people, we'd sat down and we'd had all these meetings at the beginning and said, this is what we want to achieve and this is the timeline. I just think that we were probably not on the same journey. So unfortunately, towards the end of that, I had a car accident and ended up with a blood clot. So I ended up in hospital for quite a period of time. And that was kind of my out of that. They bought me out of the business, and then unfortunately for them, a couple of months later, they wound it up and somebody else bought them out.
So the car accident was fortuitous.
It was actually, in hindsight. My husband didn't think so because he'd finally got a Mini, and then I crashed.
As Tom Panos often says, the best gifts come badly wrapped, right?
Absolutely. Well, that is so true. That is so true. Didn't know it at the time, but it's then put us on this trajectory now, which is amazing. So it was a blessing in disguise. So it was.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And so now you have got a business partner now, though.
I do. So that's I have some really beautiful business partners. Jared and Emma are my business partners. They're the Cochrans, who I originally bought into the business with. Yep. So Alex employed me. It was actually quite odd how it all happened, but one day I was on leave from my banking job, and I walked into Raine Horne, who used to manage my properties, and I bumped into Alex, who I've known since I was 16 years old. He's also in the dairy industry, which we were in, and he said to me, "And what are you up to today?" And it just came out without any thought. I said, "I'm going home to decide whether I ever want to go back to my job again." And I just had a bad morning. The girls at the office had continually rang me. I was one day into annual leave, and I'd spent all morning on the phone troubleshooting things. Yep. And he said, "I think we should get a coffee." And so we went and had a coffee and had a chat, and it kind of went from there. So then I kind of had to go home and tell my husband I didn't want to be the breadwinner anymore. Couldn't go back to work and pull his weight a little bit more so that I could follow my...
And there's a courageous conversation if I've ever heard one.
It was, let me tell you. I went to town first and bought some gifts. I thought, this has got to work. I gave him some white chocolate. And a muffin.
I've still got money to spend.
That's right. Well, we can afford the white chocolate and the muffin. And then I'll tell him I really do need to speak to him. So So it kind of just happened by chance. It wasn't in my head. I kind of didn't really plan on making a life choice that day, but it was just how it all happened, really.
And it so often is, but you've got to be brave enough to say yes when the opportunity comes and not overthink it and think of all the reasons why it's maybe not the best thing to do.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that you were dairy farmers.
Yes.
So talk to me about how that all went back when there were all those price wars going on.
There was, absolutely. So unfortunately, deregulation was the end of our little dairy. Dairying has now become very much an economy of scale. You've got to milk a certain number of animals to make it worthwhile. We were only a small dairy, only milking 160. Yep. So unfortunately for us, that meant it wasn't just financially viable anymore with all the changes. So we wound up the dairy. We still kept our cattle, which is nice. Again, it's the connections that we've had with Jared and Emma, and Alex has also been cattle, not just real estate. So that's been nice. But
how did your husband cope with that? Because I'm guessing that was his kind of passion.
Oh, he was gutted, absolutely gutted. And I guess that's one of the hard things that has been in our world has been him giving up his passion and what he loves, and then being able to, raise our 4 kids. And 2 of our children have played very high-level sports, so they're training 4 or 5 nights a week. He's everywhere from Wollongong to Sydney on any given day, taking them around. Yep. So, he's had to give up his passion and kind of support mine, which is, always interesting.
Special man you've got there by the sound of it.
Very special, actually very special. Bit special needs, I think, but he's okay.
I love it. And so talk to me about that for a little bit, because it's not there's no way that you could do what you do, run that kind of business. And you've got you've got 2 areas, right? Nara and Berry.
Well, I'm very lucky that Jared and Emma very much run Nara, which is fantastic. In the early days, because Emma's got 2 young children as well, Emma and Jared. So we kind of had this discussion. I guess this all came out of being in a partnership before where we weren't aligned. So we had really good discussions beforehand about, they've got the young family at the moment. They need to spend time with their family. 2 of my kids are now out of home. One's overseas. One's moved in with his girlfriend. So we're at different stages of life and just recognising that. So, at the moment, if those guys need to do 9 to 5, which, never happens in real estate anyway, so I say that lightly. Emma's always seeing the emails at midnight. That's fine because that's the stage of life that they're in. I'm in a different stage. But the reality is I'm a bit older too, so I'm going to burn out before them. So, you've got
a few good years left in your life.
I reckon I've probably got 10 in me. I'm a goer. So, in 10 years' time, I might want to start cutting back a bit and doing less where, they're doing a little bit less in the hours at the moment. So, so it was really good to have that conversation. And although our businesses are joined together and we make all joint decisions, we very much have different marketplaces. They're only 20 kilometres apart, but they're very different. So we do run the offices quite differently. So I don't think that we could do what we're doing at the moment, and especially not in this office without the support of Jared and Emma, and also my husband behind the scenes, because he does everything with the kids pretty much.
It really sounds like it. And how is he with being, the house husband, really?
Yeah, he actually excels at it. He's very good. He went to the mothers groups and all that sort of stuff. He absolutely loved that.
Did he? Oh, that's fabulous.
He's always, after the potty calves, he gave up the calves. He had to, supply the kids. So no, he's been really, really good with that. He doesn't know much about real estate, so he tends to stay the hell out of that. But he is very entertaining. He will come into the office, buy the girls donuts and entertain them for 10 or 15 minutes once a day. So
fantastic.
Keeps the staff morale up. When the wind blew the other day, we've had this shocking wind down here. He went and put all my signs back up because every single one of them was down. So he's very supportive. He gets the shit.
Very handy. Yes, very handy indeed. Coming from a small country town, how does your family feel about you being the breadwinner and it's sort of a role reversal, if you will?
It is. And even though, we're now in 2021, even back when I first had our kids at 23, because we come from a small farming community, by 23 you're married and you have kids. I was actually one of the later ones in our circle of friends to have kids. I was holding out. So at the bright age of 23.
That's crazy.
It is, isn't it? It's just like, when are you going to have kids?
Yeah, well. I'm still not around. I still never got around to it.
Yeah.
People say to me, it's not too late. It's like, it so is.
Somebody said that to me the other day. Do you want a fifth one? I said, oh, God, no, my kids are all self-sufficient now. I couldn't go back.
You couldn't go back, yeah.
Definitely not. Yeah. It was quite challenging because, back in those days where we were a small, sort of country community, you got married, you had kids. It was okay to have a job until you had kids, and then you needed to rear calves and rear kids. You didn't go back to work. So
I just can't believe that in this day and age, because you're younger, you're about 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit gobsmacked that was your experience.
Yeah, it was. I guess just being country too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is.
Centres where you go to. So I was very lucky that my parents were supportive, so they helped us out with childcare and things like that. And over the period of time during the bank, they brought job sharing, which was quite effective. So by the time I got to number 3 and number 4, it was quite helpful to have job share and not have to work as much. I had a full-time laundry job, really. Just folding laundry was really full-time in our house.
That's crazy.
And then my husband would go to sport and constantly put his hand up to bring the shirts home. I'm like, do we not have enough washing in this house?
What are you thinking?
Exactly. Don't do this to me. So I sort of did a bit of job share, but I've just always been really supported in the role, which has been really good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about your business. Obviously, you must be inundated with people from Sydney wanting to escape.
We are at the moment. Yes.
Yeah.
Last post-COVID, last market, the June long weekend, it got busy and then it just went ridiculous from there. It became almost unsustainable to keep up with the amount of inquiry that was coming in. So we had to make some really, they say out of, necessity, innovation will come. So we had to make some pretty serious changes in our office as to how we would go to.
So what did you do?
We put on automated responses for the price inquiries.
Yep.
And bearing in mind we're a little office, we hadn't gone into a great deal of automation before this. So we had the canned response go back out. So they got the listing sheet, which answered 99% of the questions.
Yep.
The price, when we wanted to revise a price or reveal the price, if we didn't, it would say an agent will be in contact with you. We had that redirected to one of our PAs so that it wasn't just filling up our inbox, because, you could get 500-600 emails a day, which were just inquiries. So it just was ballistic. We got an inquiry phone number so that when people were on realestate.com and domain, that it would go through to a different number.
Yeah.
Our theory behind that kind of started a little bit before COVID kind of ended. We found we had a very captive audience because people were in lockdown. So they had all day to chat. So, if somebody rang you on your personal number, they had a relationship with you, their name was saved in your phone, you'd know it'd be a 2-second conversation or a 3-minute one. But you could get sideswiped by one of those 25-minute lonely people in Sydney going, my dream is to have a lemon tree. So we had a set phone. So whoever wasn't in an appointment could just keep manning that phone so that we didn't get to the end of the day with such sheer call volume to get back to.
Yeah, amazing.
We probably made the mistake. I panicked a little bit, to be very honest, when COVID first hit.
Everybody did, can I tell you?
Yeah. And we were at that stage, kind of only had taken over the business about 2 years. We didn't have a huge lot of cash flow in the business. Sure. So we had to make some staffing decisions pretty quickly because at that stage we were in lockdown, obviously, down here as well.
Yep.
So we put some staff on leave and things like that. And I thought, what? I just felt for people. The couple of people we spoke to in Sydney were like, we're self-isolating down here on 7 Mile Beach. We're taking beautiful walks in the sunshine. It was gorgeous. People are ringing up, they're a 100 square metre unit, about to murder their children. So we thought, we've got a responsibility here to reach out to our clients and just check in and see how they're going. So we had a very big call program around not just our vendors each day, but we just started ringing the database and talking to people. And that just came back in spades. There was people that would ring back 3 weeks later and just touch base and say, hey, things have gotten a bit better. We've now got the homeschooling sorted and my husband's got the phone sent to him from work and now we can do this. So people actually felt like they need to come back to us and update us on how their lives were progressing during COVID.
Which is nice because it was. Everybody did panic right at the very beginning, which is completely understandable because we've never experienced anything like it.
No. So then we kind of built this rapport with quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then, we thought, Jesus, if a third of these people that say they're going to move down to Berry and buy houses at the other end of this do so, we're going to have a smashing market. So we decided based on that hunch that we would go out and get the listings, that we would then be positioned so that when the lockdown came off that we would have the stock. So we did a really big push on that and we got out and spoke to people about our strategy and, how we saw it going and what we thought we could do with, 3D Matterport videos and all the things that we could do to try and position their properties. So we took a lot of stock on and I was really hoping it was going to pay off because otherwise I was going to have a lot of vendors I was going to be talking to daily if it didn't.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was a bit of a gamble, but it did. And so we were really, really blessed and that was sort of the start of us being able to really get some great traction with our market share and we currently hold about 33% market share, which is awesome. And we've maintained that. So because there's a lot of agents in Berry, we're very highly populated down here for agents. So
yep.
So it was a very interesting period of time.
It sounds like it. But it's amazing how you can set yourself up for success by being brave enough to innovate in difficult times and just connecting with your community. Yeah. It's interesting. There was a time only a couple of years ago where everyone was talking about agents being technology overtaking agents' jobs, yes. Whereas now it's so clear that it's about the relationships, right?
It is. It's about the people. Absolutely.
Yeah. And particularly in that kind of community that you're in. That's, great story.
Yes.
So before we finish up, I want to hear the best advice you've ever been given, the worst advice you've ever been given, and what advice you would give to somebody else wanting to get into real estate.
Okay. Best advice I've ever been given is probably just live your life with passion. No matter what it is you decide to do, just do it with passion.
Thanks, Dad.
Yep. If you're not happy where you are, move. You're totally responsible for that. Probably linked into that was the advice that your happiness is not reliant on anybody else. If you need to make yourself happy.
Yeah, and it's not real. I think particularly in real estate, we think it's reliant on the next shiny thing. The designer label clothes and car and watch and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I know personally when we went through a really difficult time when my husband wasn't working for an extended period, we could afford to feed ourselves and pay the mortgage and that was it, right? Yeah. And that's when you realise what actually is important.
Absolutely.
And it's not the shiny things.
No, and coming from a farming background, I'm probably not quite as attracted by shiny things. Yeah. We always learnt on the farm that you make hay when the sun shines because there will be a period of drought.
Yeah, totally.
So in business, I'm usually the one that's usually like, we need to put that away for a rainy day. And, COVID's come twice, so there's definitely rainy days ahead. So that's, a period of time when everything really does slow down. Probably the worst advice I've ever been given. Oh, I don't know. I take something from everything. When people give me advice, I always think there's a little gem in there somewhere. You just got to look hard enough.
Yeah.
Probably the only thing that somebody once said to me was, that in real estate you're judged by, your achievements and the best sale price that you can get and all these sort of things. And I have to say that that's not my motivator at all, and that didn't resonate with me at all. I don't care. I'm one of the few people that don't log into our benchmarks in Raine Horne. I don't care where I'm sitting compared to others.
Don't tell head office.
They know, don't worry. I rang the other day and said, you still haven't logged into the new system. I'm like, doesn't matter. He said, I had to laugh. They said, there's only 3 people that haven't logged in, you and the people at number 321 and 322. And there's 322 people on there. So I was like,
too funny.
So that advice probably didn't resonate with me. And it probably wasn't that it was bad advice. It's just that's not who I am.
It's not who you are. And that's actually really interesting, because I've had this conversation with Sherry Storer. I don't know if you know Sherry. She's a coach based up in Queensland, so not in lockdown. I hate her already.
I love her.
But Sherry said to me, that particularly women don't judge success in the same way that men do.
No.
And I don't like to be all about the gender, but I think it's certainly true that not everybody sees success in the same way. And so for some people, it is all about the money and the dollar value and the highest number of sales. But what is success to you?
Success to me is being able to walk into my local IGA every day and hold my head tight. It doesn't matter who's in there. I don't have to change aisles. I just walk down, talk to absolutely everybody. So I think in a small country town, if you can sleep at night, you can go to the Berry show, you can go to the IGA and talk to whoever's there. I think that is success in a small community. And to be their trusted advisor, at the moment there's people making some really big life decisions with everything that's going on in their world. And the fact that they trust you enough to pick up the phone and talk that through with you, I will never take that for granted. I think that's a total privilege.
Yeah, I agree. It is an absolute privilege. And so if someone was wanting to get into real estate, what advice would you give them?
I would say be passionate about what you do. If you're not here with passion, and you've got to be here for the right reasons, and people will see through you if you're not. I get feedback all the time in Berry. I have to laugh. I'm not your typical real estate agent. I'm not huge on makeup and high heels or anything like that. I wear rider boots and pants so I can climb through fences. And I'm just very genuine. So I get feedback all the time that people go, that was the most unreal estate-like experience that I've had, but, we really appreciate it.
And so what do you think they mean by that?
I just call it how it is. If people are talking to me about their wants and their needs and things like that, I'll ask as many questions as I need to get to the bottom of it. And sometimes I'll just say to them, hell no, you don't want that. You need to look at something like this, because you've just told me while we've been walking around this property how time poor you are, and, how little time you have with the family and things like that. Buying this lifestyle property down Berry is not going to solve your problems, because, you've got to have time for the property as well. You're going to spend 6 hours.
Exacerbate the problems you're already having.
You're going to spend 6 hours on that lawnmower in spring every week. So this is not going to help your problems.
I bet some people sort of stand there and just sort of look at you with their eyes wide open when you say things like that, right?
Wow, how dare you say that to me, but more like, oh, wow, like we're having a much deeper conversation about.
And how come I haven't thought about that?
Exactly. And often they'll say, and sometimes the property's not for them, and I'll say to them, I don't think this property's for you, based on what you've told me, and I think people appreciate the honesty. You're not just ringing them up and putting them under pressure. I've had, buyers come down from Sydney that have gone, here's an offer, it's on the table till 12 o'clock. And I go, great, then it's declined. I'm not going to ring my 70-year-old vendor at 11 o'clock and give her 1 hour to make a life decision. If that's your offer, it's declined. And then people will come back, or I'll say to them, would you like me to do that to your grandmother? I don't think you would.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
people will come back after the negotiations and say, you know what? Didn't love you during the negotiation period, but you're a genuine human, and we appreciate that. So
I can imagine even the hardest nosed people from some of the most expensive areas in Sydney would take a backward step if you said, would you really want me to treat your grandmother like that?
Like that, yeah, they do.
Would.
And
I
all
love
of a
that.
sudden it's that slap, and I'm just like, no, sorry, and I'm happy to put the offer forward, but it won't be before 12 o'clock, and if you need it by 12, it's declined. And a lot of people don't like hearing that.
Yeah, I bet. No, good on you.
Yeah,
good on you. That's it. Yeah.
I think if you're going to get new into real estate, I think you kind of at the beginning, you need to run harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
You need to show that you want it, that you get out there. I came into property management here in this office to 16 properties. So by 10:30 on the first day, I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do to fill my days. So this is going to be interesting. And Alex said to me quite simply, go and get yourself some more properties. So I did. So and then sort of went from property management and sort of started helping out with sales in that last big boom that they had, doing open homes on Saturdays and things like that. But I didn't come from a sales background. So every time at an open home, people saw me as the assistant that was helping out because we were busy. So I had to work harder, I think, than anybody else to prove that, and my competitors here in town would go, she's just a property manager. You know what? Because, my business card was double-sided. I had property management on one side, sales on the other. I had 155 property managements and 15 sales listings when I finally decided maybe I had to give property management, which was my passion, away and get a property manager in. And I made him sit right there next to me on that computer so I could hear everything going on with my portfolio.
Are you a control freak?
I am a little bit. With property management, I am, because they were my babies. I brought them on. And
fair enough too, yeah.
So that was a little bit hard. But I had to run really hard and prove that, that I could compete with them. And, the guys here in town say she's just a property manager. And to this day, I embrace that. I say to people, I was a property manager that can sell houses, lots of them for record prices. So I give them a bit of banter back to the boys in town. And, when they ring up and they go, congratulations on, rate my agent, number one agent or something like that, because we all get on pretty well in town. I go, not bad for a property manager, hey. So I'm still sticking it to them.
Yeah, take that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I can absolutely see why you do so well. Your passion just shines through, and it has been so lovely to speak to you and to get to know you a little bit. I will definitely be dropping by for a coffee next time I'm in Berry.
That would be awesome. We'll have a donut. They're only 2 doors up.
No worries at all. We can do that.
We can.
All right. Well, take care. It's been great to chat.
Lovely. Thanks, Leanne. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Courageous Conversations, with thanks to connectnow.com.au. Don't forget to get access to all of Elite Agency's premium resources, including a detailed episode guide for this podcast. Visit joineliteagent.com.